Hi, my name is Jennifer Solak. I am an estate planning and probate attorney in Texas and Louisiana. And today's video is going to be about the differences between a will-based plan and a trust-based plan. When you are planning your estate and deciding how you want to leave things after you pass away, or even how you want to manage things during your life, you really have two different ways and avenues you can take. And so one is through a will-based comprehensive estate plan, and the other is through a trust-based comprehensive estate plan. And while there's really no right or wrong answer, it is important to understand the distinctions between the two so that you can kind of make the best choice as to what would be right for your family. So the first difference I would say between a will-based plan and a trust-based plan is that the will-based plan will definitely have to go through the court-supervised probate process after you pass away. So when you have a will, you need to file that in court, and until the court validates your will and appoints an executor to distribute your assets, those assets are essentially frozen and your family and your loved ones are not able to access them. And so that means they're not able to sell homes, they're not able to access funds in accounts, they're not able to distribute things where they need to go. And if you have a validly executed will, I would say an estimate about how long that might take is about 4 months. If you do not have a validly executed will, it will take longer. It's really hard to say because there might be more complexities involved in your family that make things take longer than usual. But if that kind of holding period or frozen asset period in which your family's not able to access things really bothers you, then I would say that's one tip that maybe you should try to consider a trust-based plan. In addition to the time, there's also court costs involved in probate and attorney's fees involved in probate. So that is another consideration regarding whether avoiding the probate process altogether is important to you. Another thing involved in probate is that when the will is filed, it becomes part of the public record. And so that might bother you or it might not. But perhaps you've left some things in your will that are private and you don't want people to find out about it. Maybe you've left things to your children or special needs beneficiaries that you don't want the government or any future spouses or any future creditors to know what you've left them and the way in which you've left it. And if those sort of privacy concerns are something that resonate with you, then I would say that's another reason to maybe consider a trust-based planning program as opposed to a will-based planning program. If the public nature of it doesn't bother you at all, then okay, good gut check. I think that the will-based program is fine for me. Another thing and difference between the two plans to talk about is incapacity. So a will doesn't go effect until you pass away. And during life, if somebody needs to help you because you're incapacitated, those individuals will need to rely on a power of attorney, whoever you've named as an agent in your power of attorney, to act on behalf of those assets. With a trust-based plan, anything that you have transferred to your trust and is a trust-owned asset, whoever you've named as the successor trustee to that trust can automatically step into your shoes during life and act on behalf of those trust assets, and power of attorney is not required. And so if you have dementia or incapacity concerns, then perhaps a trust-based plan might make more sense for you and your family. Another consideration to take into account is the cost factor. So a will-based plan, when you're putting it into place, is cheaper than establishing a trust right now. However, when you have to go through probate and you consider the costs of attorney's fees, court costs, perhaps appraisers, maybe a bond would be required, it could cost more. It likely will. And especially if you're married, that would be 2 probates. So with a trust-based planning program, if you have properly retitled all of your assets in the name of the trust, any asset that's owned by the trust does not require probate. And so you are then able to avoid probate once and twice for married couples. So that's a huge savings in the long run. So that's an important consideration just to determine where you are in your life and what is important for you right now. Another consideration and difference between the two is the level of time you have to devote to this right now. And so what I say to that is that a will-based plan is easier to put in place right now. You kind of go through the difficult questions of how to leave things and who to leave it to. But then, until those choices change or until the law changes and may affect your situation in some way, you really don't have to do anything. With a trust-based plan, you need to take the additional steps to retitle your assets, a process that we call funding, to make sure that those become trust-owned assets, or for the assets that cannot be owned during your life, like retirement accounts and life insurance policies, you want to make sure that those are properly coordinated with your trust. And so if you're in a stage of life where things are really busy and you don't know if you have the time to complete the funding process, then probably a will-based plan is better for you. But if you are a financially organized person and you want to make sure that things are as easy as possible for your heirs when you pass away, and you have the time, and with our guidance you are able to retitle everything in the right way, then I would say a trust-based plan is more appropriate for you and your family. And finally, both plans will require updates as your life circumstances change. So perhaps you will get married or divorced, or somebody you named in your plan passes away, or you just change your mind about how you want to leave things. So these are the sort of life circumstance changes that would require updates to either of the plans. But with a trust-based plan, you have to also be mindful that anytime you acquire a new asset, you want to make sure that that asset is properly coordinated with your trust. And so if you have kind of gone through some of these different thoughts and are leaning one way or another, I hope that this has helped you to kind of determine which is the best route for your family. If you found this helpful, I ask you to please click the subscribe link below. That will really help us and prompt us to continue making these helpful videos. And you can always contact our office at 713-588-5744. Thanks so much. Bye.